I'm wondering how many people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s have had the experience of having to wait more than 15 or 20 minutes to vote, other than people who live in largely Democratic districts in swing states. I voted on Saturday. I waited 32 minutes. We timed it. It's the longest I've ever waited to vote in my life. I don't think I've ever had to wait more than 10 minutes in my life. Ellen Ratner was on this program. She's the same age I am. She said she's never had to wait more than 10 minutes to vote in her life. Let's check her out. John Nichols is on the line with us, Washington correspondent for The Nation magazine, the author of the new book, Uprising. And you can read his writings, of course, at thenation.com. John, welcome back to the program.
It's great to be on with you, Tom.
How long?
I will report that I had to wait an hour and 15 minutes in Madison, Wisconsin.
Wow. Now that was an election that was
Friday.
And that was an election that is controlled by Republicans, and you were in a largely Democratic area?
Dane County, I have to say, it's a pretty efficient place, and I don't want to put blame so much. I don't think I don't have to blame specific people. Here's what I'll say is the problem in a state like Wisconsin. We have not, as a nation, made the minimal commitment to having easy, functional voting.
Right, voting as a right, not a privilege.
Fact, all kinds of places in our country, even places that try to do a good job. But because we haven't made that commitment, in places where there are folks who don't really want certain kind of people to vote, they have a real ability to slow the process down. And Tom, this is what I would emphasize. To my view, we spent an immense amount of time talking about formal voter suppression, things like voter ID laws and what you do with early voting and registration and things of that nature, the things that we see on paper as formal things. What we don't know is the most profound voter suppression, and that is simply local officials who slow things down by not having enough equipment, by not having the proper hours. And where we've seen that writ large in recent days is in Ohio, which is probably the central battleground state, and in Florida, which is a state that, frankly, if they ran their elections well, it's probably likely Democrats would usually win. In Florida, Tom, yesterday and Saturday, some people were waiting 9 hours. I want to emphasize that. 9 hours.
You can't call that anything other than voter suppression, John. That should be a crime.
It's the deepest voter suppression. And here's the fascinating thing. This is how bad it's gotten, Tom. In the past, Jeb Bush, and I don't hold Jeb Bush up as an exemplar of American small d democratic activism, but Jeb Bush used to extend early voting in highly competitive elections. That's just what he did.
Right.
This year, Rick Scott, his replacement as governor of Florida, refused to extend early voting. And so as a result, local officials across Florida, as well as the Democratic Party there, have had to cobble together a late-stage early voting system that allowed people to do in-person absentee votes and other things. And it has been so haphazard, such a mess, because at the top level, the governor erected barriers that you actually ended up in situations like what we saw in Doral, I think it's Doral, Florida, in Miami-Dade County, where they announced their polling place was open in a suburban area. But when a lot of, frankly, people of color and white working class people showed up to vote, they locked the doors because it didn't look like the right kind of people had showed up.
Right.
It's unbelievable. I mean, this is
the point that I was making about my experience. I went through all the places I've lived in my life, and I've always lived in areas that were largely white and largely affluent or very rural. Vermont and New Hampshire, and in Portland, of course, we voted by mail, so there was no delay whatsoever. And never having lived in a swing state and never having lived in I live in Washington D.C. right now. It's the first time I've ever in my life lived in a big city. And I had to wait 32 minutes to vote. But I guarantee you, if Washington, D.C. was a swing state, that 32-minute wait to vote, because probably about 60% of the people around me were African-American, and most of the Caucasians around me, most of the white people around me, were probably voting Democratic, knowing the neighborhood where I live, that would have been a 6 or 8 hour wait. I mean, this is This is the way that they do voter suppression in its most naked form. And why is this not called voter suppression when the CBS or NBC or ABC Evening News says, "Oh, here, look at the lines here. 12 hours, people are waiting to vote." I mean, why didn't they call that voter suppression in 2004 when people stood in line for 10 hours to vote for John Kerry?
Because that's the point at which we'd start to admit that we have a largely dysfunctional election system in America.
Well, I mean, what's the old Alcoholics Anonymous thing? You first you realize you've got a problem, and then you do something about it. I mean, can't we look at this and say, "Hey, this is a problem"?
Well, this is how bad it is. There's a group called the OSCE. It's a international monitoring group that has monitored elections in just about every country around the world, including the United States in the past. They are going to be on the ground with some 50-plus observers tomorrow in states across the country. But they were told by officials in one of the big battleground states, Iowa, as well as another not-so-much
as well as Texas, yeah,
that if they got near the polling places, they'd be arrested.
Right.
So we're actually saying we have officials in America threatening to arrest international observers. Why? Right. It's still mystery here, Tom.
And
there are people who are very happy with our dysfunctional system.
Sure. Yeah, it's the old Paul Weyrich thing. I'm sure you've heard me play that clip so many times.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not going to inflict it on you again. I played it twice yesterday, so my listeners are familiar with it. But, frankly, our leverage in the election goes up as the voting populace goes down. I've been playing that clip actually for 8 years on this program. Yeah. And
Tom, this is the point. You talk about it because you're a structuralist. I'm a structuralist, too. And that may make us seem a little boring some days.
We look at the systems.
The matter is, we talk about how the real structure works. And the fact is, that's what affects things. As much as money, as much as personalities, as much as ideas and issues. If somebody controls the structure and they can game it, even minimally, in their favor, that can define everything.
Right. And that may well be what's happening. You said earlier, we're talking with John Nichols, thenation.com, and the author of the book Uprising. You mentioned earlier that Florida, if they had an actual clean, open, and easily available voting system, would probably be a blue state, a Democratic state. Expand on that.
Well, I wrote a book after the 2000 election. I spent months looking at all the details of the meltdown in 2000 in the Bush v. Gore race. Right. And one of the things that I love about writing a book, and I know you do as well, is that you learn things. You don't just go in knowing everything. What I learned is this. Florida in 2000, roughly 3% to 4% of the electorate, people who came with the intention of casting a vote, were denied the right to do so, either by discarding of ballots, by being purged off lists, by being turned away at polling places. And when you add that up, when you add that discard level up, and you look at where it came, and I actually went down to the counties, looked proportionally where these people were. They were from the most overwhelmingly Democratic counties. They tended to be overwhelmingly people of color, and these are likely Democratic voters.
This is vote shaving. This is point shaving.
Yeah, and so it's a very simple thing that when you have a system that makes it hard, that actually erects barriers to a substantial portion of the electorate on one side, you create an unnatural, an unfair advantage for the other side.
Right, and I would bet just about anything that in the white suburbs of, the wealthy white suburbs of name the city in Florida, that the average wait to vote is 10 minutes. It certainly was when I lived in Atlanta, I can tell you that. John Nichols, thanks so much for being with us, John.
Thanks for covering it.